Plenty to see and do in Canberra. All the teams, all the fans have been enjoying this wonderful place across the weekend, but now we are really getting down to business. You talk about colour. Well, it is on the circuit here for the GMC 400. Double points, race 3, and a championship in the balance.
And here's how they'll line up with Craig Lowndes on pole position. It's an all-forward front row. Paul Radisich alongside. He was the fast man in practice and early qualifying. Then Garth Tander and Jason Bargwanna, a return to form for the Valvoline team. Stephen Johnson, John Bowe, Glenn Seaton and Russell Ingall.
Now keep in mind these grid positions for the final double point 50-lap race are determined by their results from race 1 and 2. It's done on aggregate, so it really does pay off to be consistent at the GMC 400. Good run from Jason Richards to finish in 16th.
Anthony Trapp, Ellery, Mecklin, Steve Reed, Romano Ambrose back there in 22nd. He was so fast in that previous race, a new lap record, then Kelly and Murphy.
Cameron McConville, Larry Perkins, David Bernard and Brad Jones way down the order after earlier troubles. Tony Longhurst and John Faulkner. Miraculous job by the Smash Repair team to get that car back into action. 2
cars missing from the lineup, Cameron McLean and Dougal McDougall. Too much damage inflicted over the previous 2 races.
Yeah, actually, you were saying before, it's quite a lot colder now than it was this morning, isn't it?
It's certainly breezy outside as we look on board with Greg Murphy. We've got an air temperature of 11, track temperature 14.8, so the cabin temperatures will be drastically reduced. And here's the point situation for this weekend at the moment. 2 points separate Steve Johnson and Craig Lowndes, then Tander, Radisich, Bargwanna and Glenn Seaton. That's after race 2.
It's just amazing how the Ford teams this year have turned things around. It's been an absolute Holden steamroller the last few years, the Shell Championship Series, but all of a sudden, 2001, the arrival of Lowndes, everyone has lifted their game. Ford really are the dominant force here so far.
50 laps the journey, 2 stops, compulsory stop, 1 for fuel, 1 for tyres. Strategy comes into play. It'll be very important. Reduced pit lane speeds down from 60 to 40 k's, electronic speed limiters. We're nearly set for an all clear for the start of this one. Carnage in the second race, a pretty clean race yesterday. What have we got for race 3? Radisich, who makes a great start. You see the flame belching from the cars. Lowndes really balked and bobbled on the way to the first turn. The Valvoline cars slot into 3rd and 4th, and there's biff and barge through the first turn.
We see that every time at turn 1 of the GMC 400. Look at the damage on the front, on the bonnets of some of these cars, and in the tail there was plenty of pushing and shoving coming into turn 1.
One of the Kmart cars had a lot of damage. One of the cars that was in about the mid-pack there.
Yeah, so good to get through. I think everybody learned a bit of a lesson the last time round to get through the first corner, because going around cold tyres, slow first corner, I mean, it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Finally, the world comes back to Paul Radisich, because in Friday practice he was so fast. He was the quick man in qualifying. He threw it away at the top 15 shootout down at turn 5 and 6. Now he's back at the top of the field. We'll see what sort of pace he can produce.
You see in the first practice session, he was so quick when he did 6 laps in qualifying, and everybody else did sort of 14 or 15. He was quicker than everybody.
We've looked back through the field. It was in fact Greg Murphy who got seriously sandwiched in that turn 1 situation. So hopefully the damage hasn't been too bad.
The bonnet was really looking second-hand on that car. Remember, Murphy was out in race 2 because he got involved in some sort of drama on the way to the first corner and squeezed up against the wall. His fortunes have not improved in race 3. Radisich, Lowndes, Bargwanna, Tander, Johnson, Bowe, Seaton, Ingall. Then the first of the HRT cars.
Tactics are going to come into play in this one. Pit window from lap 3 to lap 33. It's much wider because they've got double the distance. Marcus Ambrose was telling me after that race 2, and he leapfrogged from the back up to 2nd. On the track, he only overtook 1 car. It all happened in pit lane. Here they come up the pit straight for the first time. Lowndes really starting to supply some pressure to Radisich as they head down to turn 1 once again.
Have to be so careful here when you're so close to another car, because you get blindsided. Difficult to see the apex of the corner. Hard to pick your precise braking point. Very easy to run into the back of another car. The 2 Fords have just eased away ever so slightly from the Valvoline entries. Lowndes appears to have a little bit more mid-corner speed in some spots. Radisich had great pace down State Circle last time, but both of them pushing very hard. Their standing lap times are 1:48.6 for Radisich, which is pretty extraordinary.
Oh, look how close it is here. here as we take the chopper shot.
You can
Lowndes,
You can see how accidents happen, can't you, when you know, the first couple bunch up and then it gets shorter and shorter distance to stop as you go back. And
Lowndes looks like he's got plenty of speed here. He's climbing all over the back of the Shell Ford in the opening laps.
He had a slightly defensive line going that time into turn 11.
So what's Radicic going to do here? Track position critical on the streets of Canberra. So difficult to overtake. And when that pit window opens, that's when we're going to start to see the strategy starting to emerge.
Lowndes was trying to pick the throttle up early then so he could try and get a run at Radicic, and the car snapped out from underneath him. There's a surface change there as the cars move off asphalt to concrete. You can see it down there at the roundabout as well, where they've widened the track. Improvements to the Canberra Street Circuit over the year 2000.
Flash down past the back of the Hyatt Hotel, which is located inside the circuit, into turn 13. Radicic still leading, Lowndes in second. The two Valvoline Cummins cars, amazing fight back in form when you compare their performance here last year.
Radicic seems to have just skipped away slightly now. Everybody will have tyres coming up to temperature. The pressures will be normalising, and this time through we'll see some speed. Radicic at 47.3 on the next lap. They'll get right into those target times that we've seen in earlier warm-ups and other races. Remember, the new lap record is a 1:44.1 set in race 2 by Marcus Ambrose.
What an extraordinary effort by the Pertec Ford driver. Walking up and down in pit lane, talking to these various teams. Yeah,
he's up in 18th.
Talking about these teams, about their various fuel strategies. Never be sure exactly what they're telling you, but the common theory seems to be that everyone will be coming in when they do make their compulsory stop. They'll be taking on some amount of fuel. Fuel economy may play a factor here later in the race. Up Kings Avenue once again, accelerating up to 200 kilometres an hour on the approach. They brake hard before they swing hard right round the front of Parliament House. This is looking outside Craig Lowndes' car as they punch out of there on the State Circle. Ford in-car Cameron riding with Craig Lowndes. Started off pole position, didn't quite get the power to the ground as well as the Shell car. Now he hangs back in second. Great shots here. Few ride with the three-time champion. We're taking some telemetry from on board the Gibson Motorsport Ford.
You some idea of the intensity that they have to command these cars around this circuit. You push very, very hard on the gearboxes. You've got to use the engine a little bit to help slow you down around here. Huge camber in the road because it's a street circuit, and big dropaways like you see there on the exit of turn 6. A couple of blind corners, this one in particular. Difficult to see as you finally get round at turn 9, then the run up towards New Parliament House, up towards turn 10.
Great shots from the chopper there as they sweep past the National Archives on the right-hand side of the circuit. Out of turn 11 along State Circle, you can see the Parliament House to the left of your screen and the old Parliament House to the right. Fantastic shots above the nation's capital as these V8s weave and wind their way through this concrete canyon. Still Paul Radicic in command, Craig Lowndes in second, Jason Bargwanna in third, Tanner in fourth, Stephen Johnson in fifth, John Bowe in sixth, Seaton 7th, Ingle 8th, Jason Bright in 9th, Paul Wheel in 10th.
Everything's pretty much up to temperature now. On the last lap through, they recorded 1:46.4. That gives you some indication of what weight does to the performance of the cars. Remember that the vast majority have probably started on the maximum capacity, 120 litres. It's a lot of weight over the rear of the car, makes them lazier under brakes. Obviously, it makes it difficult to cycle the cars back up on the other side of the corner as well, punching out of here in first gear. Generally just slows the behaviour of the car.
Pit window will open this time around when Paul Radicic crosses the control line, which is just coming out of the Ford sweeper. Now the pit window is open to lap 33.
These could be flags that were flying on the entry of the straight there.
Yeah, it looked like. It's going to be interesting now to see if everybody decides to come in on the third lap again. You know, I can't imagine whether you saw what a traffic jam there was the first time round. I can't imagine that.
I think a few of them will be a little cagey this time because the field's been assembled more or less in pace order. To some extent, it's a simpler, purer race to try and forecast a strategy. So I think there might be a bit of a waiting game with some.
Well, we hear from the pits that Larry Perkins and Stephen Ellery have peeled off. There you are. There's the car 11. Perkins coming in very early.
Well, guys, I can tell you that they are the only two here making their officials first stop, and they're both for tyres. The other car in pit lane at the moment, Team Kiwi, but it's sporting a bit of damage.
So Radicic continues to lead this one. Who's going to peel off in this lead bunch? They've opened up a bit of a gap over the Valvoline Cummins Commodores now. So it's Radicic. Fastest man so far has been Radicic at 1:45.82. Keep in mind these cars are carrying full tanks of fuel. So these times will be going to come down a little bit. And also well into their allocation of 12 tyres, which they're restricted to over the 2 days of racing.
They can choose the ideal combination of tyres with 3 sets or 12 tyres allocated, so they can put together a combination, if you like, that's got good tread wear and plenty of depth. The tyres start with 4mm tread depth on them. Most of them will have a pretty decent set of tyres to attack this final event.
So there's Marcus Ambrose. We'll just check on his progress. He is making good progress. He's up to 15th now. So the problems he had trying to overtake in race 2 doesn't seem to be presenting him with the same problem. He's up from 22nd. Here he comes, Marcus Ambrose, coming into pit lane now. Follows Mark Scapin and the Holden Racing Team Commodore. So interesting strategy starting to unfold. Rodney Forbes.
Scape qualified 11th, or started, I should say, 11th for this race. Ambrose 22nd. So already Ambrose has made a lot of ground.
He gets a nice slick stop from the Stone Brothers crew.
These guys have taken themselves out of the mid-pack order because it's very, very slow and clumsy in there. So by taking themselves out, when they rejoin, they'll have an empty track. They will go like cut cats.
This will be interesting.
Right, look at
oh,
this,
they're going for fuel now. This is interesting.
that's
Ambrose
really
changed tyres. Holden Racing Team. Scape has gone for a fuel top-up.
Someone at the very top of the lane there with a lot of damage around the front of the car. It looked like an all-red car, possibly Tony Longhurst. On board with Marcus Ambrose, just leaving the pits. You'll see the yellow line there. He's not allowed to cross that before he rejoins here at turn 2.
Stone Brothers did a good job of their pit stop in the first race. All the smoke. Oh, that's one of the. Who's
Valvoline
that?
car.
Is that Barnes?
Looks like Barguana, and a lot of damage. The word is that he may have touched the wall. Here's the Shell Helix replay.
Oh dear, that's more than a touch. That's a wallop.
Tried to engineer it back 3 metres.
He lost a wheel nut.
And nearly lost a wheel nut, and nearly Chandler nearly hits him on the backside.
That's an expensive mistake from Jason Barguana. Now he's got to try and limp it around, get it back to the pits. But the damage beneath that bodywork could be quite severe.
The amount of leaves that have gathered already in the radiator intake at the front of the car, that's one of the issues here that causes the teams a lot of grief. They'll have to watch water temperature very carefully, but there'll be somebody at the front of the car for both compulsory stops that'll monitor that with all the vehicles.
Nerve-wracking moment for Gary Rogers Motorsport. Look at the damage on this car. It's crabbing its way along the track. It's been so badly hit as a result of that collision with the concrete.
That was a huge hit.
Massive hit, and you can see the damage there. Left front corner's just scraping along the ground.
You'd have to think that was pretty terminal, wouldn't you?
Stephen Richards with some damage to the rear bodywork of the FTR Falcon.
Lots of damage to the front of the car as well. These guys opting for tyres. So this is quite interesting. Some going for fuel, some going for tyres in these early stops.
Yeah, I guess the guys who have come in early for fuel may be banking on a bit of rain later in the day. There may be a situation where everyone has to come in and put wet tyres on. So a lot of different tactics to unfold here from watching the weather as well as everything else. There's Marcus Ambrose. Flashes past on the outside of the pit lane, so we wait for these positions to unfold. So Stephen Richards rejoins behind Marcus Ambrose, who's already come in for his tyre stop. Fastest man on the track at the moment is Paul Radicic. He did that on lap 6. A 1:45.67 as Barguana lips into pit lane.
Bogs. Oh, look at the back end, everything.
There's going to be some serious damage to the front end of that car. Look at that. The wheel nut came off. The wheel nut came off. I would suspect it was from the front wheel, but the wheel's still there.
F51 is just driving straight around in the back. He's not even going to bother stopping at his pit lane. As you can see, as you did pick at Marshall, the wheel has gone on the left side. It's nothing but a rim on there. The tyre's blown both sides. And the explanation for that one from Gary Rogers was the fact that he just crashed. That's about as simple as it gets. Having the change of fortune for this team, hey?
Very easy to do.
Replay again shows what happened. You see Jason in the background, a lot of steering lock on, bang into that wall.
Watch Garth, look. Which way that...
Yeah, and what they've done wisely is taken him out of the working lane because the new rule prevents you from having two cars in your pit area. So because there's the possibility of Garth coming in at some point as Jason Brighton peels off, they don't need that car in there. There's no way they'd fix that.
Paul Radicic.
See the leaves cleared from the front.
Craig Lowndes still out on the track. Garth Tander, Steve Johnson.
And rejoins. It's sort of strangely quiet weekend for Jason. Still our championship leader, and he's come out in front of Mark Scaife, so the two HRT cars line astern.
Mark Scaife pretty handily placed at the moment. He's back in 19th, but he is the first of the cars that's made its first compulsory stop in the order.
Now they're getting both stops out of the way for Stephen Richards. They're doing fuel too.
So the Holden Racing team.
Oh, stalled.
Holden Racing team. Holden Racing team looking pretty handily placed at the moment. Scaife and Bright. It was in fact Bright who came out in front of Scaife. So they're the first of the cars to have made their first of two compulsory pit stops.
Now with that, you heard them say reset fuel, Neil.
There's a button on the steering wheel which they can reset so that they can see back at the telemetry just the fuel consumption of the car. As we take a look at the Shell Helix race score, Radicic, Lowndes, Tander minus his teammate now, so it's Johnson 4th, Bow, Seaton, Ingle and Paul Wheel 8th.
Paul Morris and Jason Brighton just rejoined the track in front of his teammate. Holden Racing team looking strong in the opening laps, the GMC 400.
Double points race 3 and a change in the lead since they last crossed the start-finish line. Craig Lowndes has taken over from Paul Radicic in quite a margin too, so one would suspect that something has gone wrong with Radicic there. Incidentally, Stephen Richards 2 stops so far and Stephen Ellery 2 stops, so they should be able to run to the finish line now. And just briefly ahead of us on Network 10, the US Open Golf Championship. Tim Webster over there, Matthew White reporting for Sports Tonight. Full coverage from Southern Hills Country Club in Oklahoma.
And just on those 2 stops you mentioned, Bill, for Stephen Richards, he's been deemed to have sped in pit lane and has taken a black flag and will have to take a stop-go penalty for infringement on one of those. Now Lowndes is coming up onto the back of a Castrol car, but we try to establish what's happened here with Radicic.
Okay, he's up behind race leader Radicic, ducks out. Now Radicic just suddenly lost speed in a straight line. What's he got there, Neil? A bit of a...
Maybe misgear.
Couldn't get a gear, maybe the engine's cut out for some. Let's just listen. Don't know.
Sounds like a motor went out.
Have a listen to it now.
Well, see, he's still circulating in second. His last lap was a 45.6. Maybe he just grabbed the wrong... Maybe he just grabbed the wrong gear.
Ooh. Fastest man on the track at the moment is Marcus Ambrose. 1:45.34 on lap 8.
He's up to 17th now.
See the enormous sods of grass and mud in the middle of the road there at turn 13. Scaife has just pitted. And that's his second stop. So many people choosing to do their combination tyre and fuel quite quickly. We also hear that Stephen Richards is hotly disputing the speeding in pit lane, and that's not unusual.
Comes Paul Radicic now, peels off after dropping the lead to Craig Lowndes. Have to watch this with interest. Hope there's nothing terminal. The car seemed to pick up speed okay after Lowndes got past. There, everything looks okay. So Radicic gets back into the action with the Team Kiwi Commodore up in front of him.
It looks like most people are stopping for about 5 seconds worth of fuel, which is probably about 30 litres, I'd estimate. You can generally dump about 120 litres in 20-odd seconds.
quite mystified as to what that problem for Paul Radisich may have been. Just had a word to Brett Bull and some of the boys down here at Dick Johnson Racing. They're giving it the thumbs up, saying Paul Radisich is A-OK.
I suspect he's actually grabbed the wrong gear on the exit of turn 6 down there, because the engine was running. You can hear that in the background, but it was just chug-a-lugging along, and he still got back to good speed, so a mystery.
Saw Garth Tander leapfrog Paul Radisich as a result of that stop. Tander running back in 11th at the moment. Let's have another look at
Bernard.
Helix replay. Boys
He's having a terrible season, isn't he?
They did a fantastic job to get that car out because it was very badly damaged. You can see they were working at a feverish pace in the pits between race 2 and 3.
He nearly did his signature on the road then, didn't he?
So this is back on board with the Rat. And as I said before, Tander just snuck past when he was in the pit, so this is about 11th spot.
And I believe race leader Craig Lowndes is also heading into pit lane as well. So it's a busy time out there at the moment as everybody shuffles their order.
Stephen Johnson is behind Lowndes too. So Craig Lowndes now comes in for his first of 2 stops.
It's about 5 odd seconds stationary, so again somewhere in the order of about probably 30 litres. Listen to the thing hammering on the pit lane speed limiter.
May sound pretty dramatic at home, folks, but that's just the automatic ignition cutout. Engines don't sound very nice when they're running on less than 8 cylinders.
It's a spark interrupt, it's an electronic interrupt. It's not based on wheel speed, because that could then be manipulated into a form of traction control. It seems to have been pretty successful this weekend. Most people that I've spoken to are very positive about the benefits of being able to look clearly through the windscreen in order to make better judgments. Problem with one of the FTR Fords here with the lower arm off, and that's Seaton. So a quick wheel alignment for Glenn now. Is that because of a breakage, or is that because he's tagged something? See a pretty good shot underneath Glenn's car.
Any secrets there?
I don't know, but there'll be a few blokes running the VCRs backwards and forwards during the week to have a look at that one.
Yeah. Here comes Marcus Ambrose. His second stop, I think. Yep, so Ambrose has completed his 2 compulsory stops, so everyone's getting these out of the way as soon as they can. Just going to see where he rejoined the circuit. Just in front of Mark Scaife. And at the moment, Scaife's running 20th. So Ambrose has come out about 19th.
Steve Richards taking his penalty. So not a nice afternoon for FTR.
No, it's not at all. Long stop here for Glenn Seaton, and this is the reason why. Have a go at the bend in that is on the front left of the car, and Glenn Seaton has been in here for a long time now and lost a stack of track position.
I'll tell you what.
Steering arm.
Not only that, but problems here for Anthony Track. Told IPEC Ford. Just looking at that situation where Ambrose emerged there. He came out.
Look at this. He's sorry to interrupt there, Mark, but Traddy is just ambling in with damage, and he's tangled up Brad Jones behind him, which would be pretty costly.
Just saying before, when Ambrose came out of the pits after making his second stop, he came onto the track in front of Scaife. Scaife was running in 20th place. He's already made his 2 compulsory stops. Ambrose had just completed his. So just looking down through that order, Ambrose and Scaife looking very strong, because they're the 2 cars that have made 2 compulsory stops so far. A little bit of confusion at the moment as these things unfold. Second stop here, Steve Johnson.
Everything seems to be going pretty smoothly here. Gee, it is frantic down here in pit lane at the moment, with everyone coming in and out. Decision for a lot of teams to come in and get rid of both stops. I'm quite surprised by that. I thought some would have endeavoured to stay out more and gain more from some clear track space.
Yeah, maybe a fear about safety cars.
The worry here, that's right, would be if you haven't got your 2 stops out of the way now and a safety car does come out, if anybody has a brain fade, you'll get severely hung out to dry.
The reason why that is, you are not allowed to pit when the safety car's on the track. We saw Glenn Seaton and teammate Stephen Richards get well and truly hung out to dry at the round at Eastern Creek. No one wants to be a victim of that again.
The guy that does the right rear has got a heavy job when you think about it, because if he has trouble with the wheel, there's, your wheel nut or whatever, and then forgets to tear the tag off the window. It's...
Mark Larkham was penalised in Darwin for that. It's a pretty cruel punishment, but unfortunately that's the biz. On board with Mark Scaife, this terrific view, some backseat driving in the Holden Racing Team Commodore compliments of VB. This is the rundown state circle, second, third, fourth. You'll grab fifth briefly down the bottom. Very quick. It's a blind approach to this corner. Difficult because if you get stuck hard into the brake pedal here, you'll dramatically lock the unloaded front tyre, which is the front left. We've seen evidence of that already. Some extended pavement on the left-hand side of the road there as they now make the run down Flynn Drive. Back to second again for this little chicane. It's a roundabout. Again on the left, the fence has been eased back. Flynn Place. Mark's now in the groove. He's got his stops out the way. It's just him, the car, the traffic, concentration. Squeeze as hard as you dare, but don't make mistakes. Shift light just visible on the dashboard occasionally when the car engine gets to 7,500 revs. Ooh, a little bit of mid-corner correction between 14 and 15. The car just wants to swap ends as he comes back onto the pit straight. Much higher wall there to protect the cruise on the right-hand side. Then this little dog leg in the braking approach to turn one. It's very slow. First gear. Second, third.
Now, mate, think of the championship.
And think of points. That's the message. Actually used second gear coming out of turn one there, so I miscalled that. He's back to third now for this little bus stop behind Parliament House. So here is the order on the Shell Helix replay. It's Paul Wheel in command. 5 seconds up on Morris, Mecklem, Lowndes yet to take a second stop. Tander, Radisich, Faulkner and Ingle. Further back, it's Bright, Kelly, Larkham, McConville, Rodney Forbes, then David Bernard, Marcus Ambrose and Marcus Scape, who we're on board with. The GMC 400 continues in Canberra after this break.
Craig Lowndes trying to work his way through a little bit of traffic here. Tyler Mecklem under pressure in car 50. Mecklem yet to make a pit stop in this race by our calculations. Craig Lowndes is already one stop down, but trying to pick his way through on track third behind Wheel and Mecklem. But, of course, behind Lowndes, there are a whole range of computations with a number of drivers now having made their second spots and running it right through to the checkered flag.
When we went to the break, Mecklem now being overhauled. When we went to the break, Wheel was leading and he just came in while we were away in the break for one of his stops. Incidentally, Paul Morris has taken a stop-go penalty for speeding in pit lane or pit lane infringement as well.
It looks like Tander will be leading now because he's the highest one up has made 2 stops.
Generally reckoned around the pit paddock that several of the leading Holdens have got a bit better fuel consumption than the leading Fords, which may have an impact in terms of the stationary time to put fuel in the cars for the compulsory fuel stop. Whoa, John Faulkner trying to undo all that good smash repair teamwork, but no damage done, thankfully. Look at all that mud and garbage on the inside here. There's more to it. There's more to it, is there? Is it Russell Ingall?
Russell Ingall up the inside there. That was close.
Go.
Oh, and he's still parked there at the moment. Safety car is standing by.
This is a nervous moment for Craig Lowndes.
The tyres, see where the tyres are.
Ah, yes.
Nervous moment for Craig Lowndes. We're just doing our sums here. He's 50 seconds in front of Marcus Ambrose, who is the first of the 2 stoppers.
Yeah.
Now, if the safety car comes out,
Which I think it might.
He's going to lose
If
all
it's
that.
out now, he's in terrible trouble. They've gambled. They've been brave, but they've gambled.
Safety car's
And
out,
lost.
I'm told. So this will be a disaster for the Gibson Motorsport team. They gambled hard. Maybe the roll of the dice hasn't gone their way.
This is what we were on about all the weekend, wasn't it? I mean, you can be so lucky and so unlucky, and Craig sees that, he says, oh dear.
The boys are actually standing by here in pit lane with tyres for Craig Lowndes. They've got 1 stop to do, as you know. And Oscar Fiorinotto and Alan Heafy and the boys have been calculating. They thought maybe we should bring Craig in around about 2 laps' time, but that has thrown that into chaos, hasn't it?
Well, they took the gamble. They really took the gamble and hasn't paid off.
And you'd have to say that on balance, their gambles throughout the year have been pretty successful. So you're going to lose some. This is a costly one, though, because there's so many points on order. See, what's happened is that the net lead that he had, in reality, is now frittered away by the compaction of the field.
And not only has he lost that 50-second lead over the field, but he peels off to make his tyre stop. When does the pit window close? Lap 33.
The only thing that could protect him here now is if he had astonishing pace and a good clear run, and he was able to get another decent run on before another safety car came out much later on. But I don't think he could make that sort of a margin on the field.
He's made his fuel stop. He's got to come in for tyres, and he's really going to be pushing it.
Well, one thing's for sure, the stop will happen a lot later now. They've got no choice.
There's no way they can bring him in now.
As for John Faulkner, apparently he was hit up the back by Russell Engel, which turned him around, and simply just can't start the car after he stalled at the boys. He's trying to tell him to stay in there, and she'll fire up in a couple of minutes, but no word other than that.
So at the moment, if this works against Craig Lowndes, certainly Marcus Ambrose is looking pretty strong. He's up to 7th in the order now as a result of people coming in and making stops. He's made his 2 stops. Tander's going with him, so too Skate. So it's a pretty competitive pack hovering around it outside the back of the top 10. But Lowndes has really been stranded as a result of playing poker with the safety car. And has come out at just exactly the wrong time for the Gibson Motorsport team.
Well, Faulkner doesn't get any luck at all, does he?
No, amazing job by that Smash Repair team. You can't sing their praises too highly. 12 of these apprentices worked 24 hours non-stop through the night, freezing cold conditions, to get this car back on track. They really do deserve a pat on the back. Big cheer from the crowd. John Faulkner, something of a folk hero in V8 Supercars. He has struggled to find sponsorship of late, hanging on to his level 1 franchise by his fingertips. Thermo King have come on board this weekend to give him a hand. And it's amazing how he's been able to bounce back after such an enormous accident earlier in the weekend.
We're 16 laps into this 50-lap encounter, and Craig Lowndes leads, but that gap has frozen because the pace car is out on the circuit. Mecklem, then Kelly, Wheel, McConville, Radisich, Ingle, Morris in 8th position, then Rodney Forbes, Ambrose, Tander, Scaife, Bright, Johnson, Bow and Reed. We're back with more action on your home of motorsport after the break.
Still under safety car in the GMC 400. On track, Craig Lowndes from Tyler Mecklem and Todd Kelly. But unofficially, the men who've made both stops are Ambrose, 7th on track, but leading Tander and Skate. Those 3 gentlemen have made their compulsory stops. A reminder, Jason Buckwider is the special guest on rpmlive.tv. A chance to chat with him about a very eventful weekend. Here we go. Almost set for another start at full speed.
So the field getting set. We've gone through a pretty interesting time in the last 18 laps, and it's not played well into the hands of Craig Lowndes as the safety car gets set to peel off. It does. Craig Lowndes leads the field down to the first corner, and they're now all compressed into the back of him. And Nigel Greenway, our statistician, said whilst we were away in the break that the net margin that Lowndes had over Ambrose as he watched Tander overshoot there was a full 70 seconds before the safety car came out, and now that's been dramatically reduced. And Ambrose in behind one of the FTR cars, and then they in turn are behind Rodney Forbes. We saw earlier that Ross Stone from Stone Brothers Racing went up to Fred Gibson and has obviously asked if Marcus can get right of way over Rodney as he tries to make his way through to the top of the field.
Well, it may not have worked out for the Gibson Motorsport team this weekend, but I still applaud their courage in pushing that envelope so hard, because look at the massive advantage that they built up on the track. 70 seconds, who would have believed it around here?
What Ross Stone and Fred Gibson were talking about, they were just trying to get an idea when Rodney Forbes may be pitting, because that'll assist Marcus Ambrose. Now, Forbes will actually come in before Craig Lowndes. The plan by Gibson Motorsport is to keep Lowndes out there as long as possible and build up a bit of a gap.
Yeah, that's all they can do at the moment, Rusty. Just try and get him out there and do laps as fast as possible and try and open up that gap. He has got a few cars between himself and his closest pursuer, who is Marcus Ambrose in 7th, Garth Tander in 8th, Mark Scaife in 9th. Every car between himself and Craig Lowndes is yet to make its second stop. So there's Lowndes. Here's a bit of the traffic. Keep your eyes out for Marcus Ambrose in the Pertec Ford. The field starts to build up speed, starting to get some heat and pressure back into the tyres.
Oh, dear me.
Mecklem with the rear brakes locked up and just glanced right into the fence. Wow, that was heavy-duty contact with the wall. So Lowndes is getting away, but he needs to make monumental margins over the rest of the field to get something back. and he is driving hard. You can tell by the body language of the car.
First flying lap of 1:47.09.
One thing he does have is a very clear track other than anybody that may spill out of the pit lane, because we know that they've all been compressed because they've been under safety car.
He's got the advantage that Ambrose has got to get past all the other traffic before he...
Getting cooperation from other drivers around this circuit is a fairly tough ask, but just listening to some of the radios as they were going round, 2 Shell cars are doing a bit of teamwork out there. The Rat, of course, was in front of Stephen Johnson as they were rolling around, and he's volunteered to move over to let Stephen through. He's obviously carrying a little bit more pace, and they've got more to gain by doing that, but providing they don't let anyone else slip through.
Stephen Johnson, I should say, is better placed in the championship by a long way than Radicic, so that'll help in their points play as well. And look at this down the field. There's Marcus Ambrose, first of the 2 stoppers in the pack.
Just heard also that John Faulkner, when you have a bad weekend, you really have a bad one, don't you? He's been penalised for getting outside assistance to restart that car at the turn 13 incident that we saw before that prompted the safety car. Now, the black flag's being shown down there, and that'll be for Faulkner, so he'll have to take a stop-go.
If Faulkner had a duck, it'd drown. It's true, though.
Where did you get that from?
Oh, it's out my mouth.
We're doing more sums on this lounge situation. We've calculated he lost 46 seconds doing his tyre stop, calculating his in and out laps. So you see he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to try and...
One thing that's happened with the 40k pit lane speed limit is made the transit through the pit lane unbelievably slow, so it really adds up to a lot of time now.
So that massive 70-second margin that he built up by staying out so late didn't pay off this time, thanks to the safety car intervention.
And that was brought about by Russell Ingall touching the back of Faulkner's car, who in turn spun, who in turn couldn't start the car. It was parked in an awkward spot right in the middle of the road at turn 13, and the cars were all bunched up when the safety car intervened to clean up the mess.
At the moment, this bunch is looking pretty good. Marcus Ambrose 4th on the track now.
Oh,
And he's got Mark Scaife right up behind him in the Holt Racing Team Commodore. And this is the battle, I guess you could say, for the lead, depending on what happens to Lowndes. So Ambrose is really hurting after that gearbox failure in race 1. Oh, look how close it gets here.
Why don't you just get out of the way, basically?
So Scaife now climbing all over the back. Marcus Ambrose.
It's unnecessary to give Ambrose as hard a time as that, isn't it? I mean, it's just...
Tratt is 26th, and Ambrose is 4th.
Tratt's a lap down, of course.
Figures sort of speak for themselves, really, don't they?
I mean, how many goes has Ambrose had to try and get by? 4, 5?
Well,
the problem is that
there was some discussion about this issue at the drivers' meeting earlier in the week.
The blue flag is being waved, so eventually if he doesn't cooperate, then he'll get this bad sportsmanship flag, but you've only got to have it happen to you for a lap, and it can take... You watch Ambrose's lap time this time through. It's a 48.4, and prior to that he was in the 45s. You wonder why sometimes these blokes get on the rev limiter.
Yeah.
Well, what Russell Ingall was saying when the drivers' meeting was here, if you come across a driver who is consistently more than 3 seconds slower than you, you should just, move across.
Oh, that's ridiculous. I mean, that is just...
Lowndes is now 12 seconds in front of Ambrose, but he's going to need a lot more than that. He's going to be able to go in and pit and come out in the lead.
I was going to say it's done Lowndes a favour, though.
Ambrose down the inside. Tratt squeezing him again.
I can't believe it.
Marcus Ambrose wants to take advantage. He saw that one coming. He took advantage up the inside.
That is a shocking bit of driving, isn't it?
Now they're 3 wide coming up the end, coming on the state circle.
What a fool.
Anthony Tratt really...
He's a prat, honestly. I mean, that is just ridiculous.
It's really bad when you see a driver whose lap getting involved in things like that championship deciding stuff.
Well, a little glance at his mirror about 3 laps before wouldn't have hurt, would it?
So Marcus Ambrose loses out in that equation after he tried to hustle through. Mark Scaife now.
He was the benefactor. He was able to see all that unfolding, and he was able to make the run going up the hill, and that cost Ambrose dearly, and Scaife has had the world open up in front of him. Pretty amazing set of circumstances. Just hard to justify, isn't it?
Yeah, it's totally unjustifiable. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
So hard under brakes down the back of Flynn Place. Here comes Tando with damage. So Ambrose now lost that position as a result of getting tangled up with this car, the Toll Express car, which is becoming something of a mobile chicane now.
He's doing a good job on the Ford car as well.
Now this is the situation.
Now look at
Ambrose
this.
dived
Here we
down the
go.
inside.
Don't let's look at all. What a surprise, surprise.
Well, Trapp didn't even see him there.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's just, that's unforgivable.
I don't think Anthony was using his mirrors there. Mark Scaife was able to take full advantage of this as he saw it happen.
But where's the judiciary?
Yeah, there you go. He should be in now with a penalty.
Why does it have to go on for lap after lap? It's been brewing forever.
Yeah, totally agree.
What's the race director doing?
Yeah.
Craig Lowndes continues to lead. 14 seconds the gap over Scaife now, who's his closest pursuer in terms of the first of the cars to have made 2 stops.
I think what they should do is have a bad sportsmanship flag and a do you need a set of glasses flag. You know, that was unforgivable.
Yeah, it's a shame for Marcus Ambrose.
Yeah, totally agree.
A pretty rotten weekend, showed an enormous amount of speed, but that broken gearbox race 1 on Saturday afternoon has really hurt his...
Pretty unusual thing to see a broken input shaft in one of those gearboxes. They are really bulletproof. It's very unusual, but I guess that's the sort of stress and strain that you get on a street circuit, particularly where transmission is punished like it is around here with so much stop-go stuff and pounding over these curbs.
I suppose the only lucky thing out of that coming together with Trapp and Ambrose was the fact that they didn't stick a mudguard on Ambrose's tyre.
Or at least it's only one spot and they're often clear now, so it's an incident that's passed, but pretty bizarre.
Bad news. We're just doing some more sums on this. If Lowndes were to come in now, for instance, based on a 46-second stop, he'd end up rejoining at about 16th or 17th place. So not looking good for the Gibson Motorsport team at the moment. He just needs massive speed.
What you're hearing in the background there on the radio is not unlike what often is heard inside your helmet in a race, by the way. You know, that's not crystal clear communications, and that in itself can be unbelievably frustrating for the crew chief or the engineer or whoever's on the radio and the driver, and then you end up going in this backwards and forwards conversation saying, what did you say?
Glenn Seaton's weekend has gone from bad to worse, and this is the reason why. They brought him in before to change that steering arm on the front left. Now he's had a massive brake lock-up on the front left, and look at this tyre. Look at the way it's been worn away here under that lock-up, so much so it's gone down to the belts in this section here. Glenn Seaton had to do an unscheduled stop to change the front left.
That is what you call a very flat spot on the tyre, and in the car that thumps back through the steering wheel, and it's literally like driving on a 50%.
I was going to say Ambrose is losing time on Scaife, and I don't know whether he's having some other kind of problem or whether that all coming together did maybe knock the track out or something.
Well, that was a costly error then, and it's allowed Tander to get right into the back of Ambrose and really threaten now as they come down towards turn 13. There's Tander. A little bit of headlight damage in the front left corner of that car.
Fantastic fight back for Garth Tander. And you consider the beginning of the season has just been a terrible start for the Valvoline Cummins team, and it's quite miraculous. This is the meeting where his whole championship changed last year, where it all went bad. This year it's actually going very well. Let's have a look at the Helix replay.
Oh, right round.
Yeah, I think it might have just been, a hot arrival. He ended up going in so quick that he got offline, and diminishing returns. The closer you get to the corner, the more likely the accident. So the harder you push the brake pedal, so the more likely an accident.
And he has said it quite often, the unfamiliarity with the equipment, Neil. You know, he said when you're adjusting the brake bias from front to rear or rear to front during the race as the fuel load lightens, it's still something he's coming to terms with. So maybe his misjudgment on the balance between front and rear was apparent there.
One of the hardest things to tell yourself in any race car sometimes is to get off the brakes in order to regain directional control, and on a street circuit like this it's very difficult to...
Especially if you're heading towards something hard, it's even more difficult to get off the brakes.
See how hard Craig Lowndes is pushing there. The car sliding a four-wheel drift to that corner.
45.8 was his fastest lap so far. Coming up onto the back, I think Tyler Mecklem here with a little puff of smoke occasionally.
You should have seen Ross and Jimmy Stone get on the radio very quickly to Marcus Ambrose here just a few moments ago. Now, the fuel load in Marcus's car is getting lighter, and the back end almost came around on him there before. What they've told him to do is, there's not a steering problem, they've just told him to adjust the brake bias.
And just to further explain that, Greg, cars have got adjustable brake bias controls in them, so you can apportion the percentage of front or rear brake, and as the fuel load burns off and the rear of the car therefore becomes lighter, you can't carry the same percentage of rear brake that you may have started with. And if you're trying to brake late, and as the weight bleeds off the car, you're encouraged to brake a little bit later, it's very easy to stop the rear brakes, and that's what we saw.
Well, Lowndes is fighting a bit of a losing battle here. He's starting to lose speed. His closest pursuers, Scaife, Ambrose and Tander, are closing the gap, so maybe those tyres just about had enough. He's going to have to come into the pit soon anyway, because the pit window closes on lap 33. So maybe his gallant charge is just coming to an end. Stephen Johnson in 6th position. A minute after race 2, they maybe went a little bit conservative on their strategy through that one. Didn't give him a good starting position for race 3, but he's fought his way up into the top 6. Keep in mind the result here. Very, very important to the Shell Championship position. Here's Lowndes. You saw him slide the car into there on the previous lap, which is another indication perhaps he's losing the grip. And there's the boys ready to put the tyres on. So Lowndes has held up the white flag. It's time to come in and get that new rubber on.
Todd Kelly's also infringed. He's back in 16th. He's made some form of pit lane violation, and he'll come in and pay a price for that as Lowndes comes onto the back of Mecklem, turn 13 chicane. And this time through, we're expecting Lowndes to make the compulsory tyre stop. He's been leading comfortably for a while, but he's going to have to relinquish the lead in order to get this stop out of the way, because if we get another pace car, it'll undo all of that work again.
Pit lane speed.
Oh.
Right down to 40 kilometres an hour.
How quick you have to slow down.
Yeah. Let's look at he's probably going to come out somewhere around where Stephen Richards is on the track, about 15th if everything goes to plan.
Ambrose goes past us here on the pit straight. Craig Lowndes in for his tyre stop. The team tell me that he did radio in and say the tyres were definitely going away from him in those latter laps.
Gibson Motorsport team look nicely drilled, getting back into the battle. So we'll just have a look at who's coming down pit straight when Lowndes re-emerges onto the track.
Once we get our lap stop, tell me where we are, what we're going to do to win the damn race.
And Craig saying, tell me where we are when it all settles down and what we've got to do to win the race. Well, unfortunately...
Go ever so quick.
Need to be in a Ferrari or a McLaren. And
with a turbocharger.
Yeah. And that might get it back for you. Unfortunately for Craig, the strategies cost them this time, and he's going to be buried in the field when they come back round. The computer will sort it out. So fresh tyres on board for Lowndes. We are past the halfway point of this third and final race in the GMC 400 for 2001, round 5 of the Shell Championship Series.
Scaife is the fastest bloke on the track at the moment. It looks as if Ambrose is maybe struggling a little bit because he's consistently losing sort of a tenth or so a lap to Scaife.
Looks, it's early signs and hard to call, but it looks awfully like Mark Scaife may pull one out of the fire here.
Yeah.
And that's
it's incredible
when you consider the second race.
It's just incredible how it keeps happening.
There he is.
And it can't all be luck, can it? As we've said.
No, that's good hard driving and sharp management. Sometimes there's an element of luck. There is definitely a gamble element in the safety car issue. You saw Glenn Seaton.
The car, mate, as much as you can.
Saw Glenn Seaton cop the raw end.
22 laps to go.
The raw end of it at Eastern Creek, when all of a sudden he was the wrong fellow in the wrong place at the wrong time. We've seen other people advantaged. Today we've seen Lowndes disadvantaged and some others gain some advantage. That is the luck of the game at the moment.
At the moment he's also looking at like the overall round winner of the GMC 400. If you look at the total points tally, he's got 282. Stephen Johnson has 282 as well. He's back in 4th. So if Steve gets in front of Tander, he's going to have more points, but a remarkable fight back from Scaife. Regardless, the damage he incurred in race 2 put him right down the order. Amazing work by the Holden Racing team.
Russell Ingall, who's currently 6th on the road, has been given the black flag. He'll have to take a stop-go penalty for a pit lane infringement.
So it's going to be interesting to watch the battle for third between Tander and Stephen Johnson. If Stephen Johnson can get in front of the Valvoline Cummins car and positions stay the way they are, he'll be the overall round winner. Scaife will be second and Ambrose will be third by our calculations.
Fastest man so far in this race, I think Marcus Ambrose with a 45.3. Time's a little slower in this one because the extra fuel and also the tyres have been through some cycles. 29 of 50. Here is the order at the moment, and it's Mark Scaife with a 3-second margin over Ambrose, Holden in fourth, then Garth Tander, Stephen Johnson, Jason Bright, Russell Ingall, who's going to come in for that stop, then Bowen Ellery.
Greg Murphy and Mark Larkham's done well to claw his way up into the top 10. Paul Radisich, Larry Perkins, Stephen Richards, Craig Lowndes as a result of that stop at the end, down to 14th place. McConville heads up the next group. The back half of the GMC 400 comes to you after the break on Network 10, your home of motorsport.
The defending champion, and he has bounced back strongly this weekend to, at this stage anyway, take hold of the lead once again. He is plenty of points ahead of his teammate Jason Bright. Mark Scaife could be tied with Stephen Johnson, only 10 points behind them, mind you, as they stand at the moment. Garth Tander and 10 points further back to Marcus Ambrose. So it's been a very close weekend, but Scaife doing exceptionally well. 11 degrees in Canberra, 31 in the car.
Silently watch this onboard from Scaife. It's fascinating around here. Now this is Stephen Johnson, car number 17. There's Tander in 34, and in behind him is Jason Bright. These fellas are third, fourth, and fifth.
John Bow having a fairly lonely run back there in sixth place in the Cat Ford.
282 points apiece for Scaife and Johnson if they stay in the current order. And the round win would go to Scaife by virtue of the potential win in this third and final race with the double points on offer.
Yeah, Steve Johnson can get in front of Garth Tander. Sorry, Baz. That'll put him in the position to win the round overall. So still some things to unfold here. 31 laps gone of 50.
Ambrose has knocked half a second off of Scaife's lead that lap, so I don't know whether Scaife will be struggling to get past anybody.
This gives you some idea of the circuit at Canberra, where it's situated, and some of the landmarks. Old Parliament House in the foreground. That particular section of track, turn 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the run down here is very eventful. Big cambers on the road, hard to see, bumpy. This turn 9 there before they make the run up the hill. Holden Bend is where Ambrose made the run on track. Look at that 43.8 lap record for Craig Lowndes on that new set of tyres. Now they're up to temperature. Up the top of the hill there, New Parliament House, then that downhill run through State Circle. Just a glimpse of Lake Burley Griffin off the top of the shot. Beautiful location for the street circuit in the city of Canberra, enthusiastically welcoming the V8 Supercars this weekend.
Marcus Ambrose still turning on plenty of speed. Just took 0.8 of a second off Scaife's lead in the first sector of that lap. Gap sitting about 3.7. It's down to 3.2 now between Scaife and Ambrose. So Ambrose continuing to attack.
Bit like one of the show cars.
Lowndes a bit further back in the pack. He's currently 13th.
And he's on fire, but he's up against a wall of cars here. He's going to probably get a result if he can get by, but I very much doubt the opportunity to get on the podium.
Scapes dropped about 1.8 seconds on that lap.
And that's only the first sector, though.
It's down under a second now, the difference between Ambrose and Scape. So the battle for the lead has all of a sudden come alive. What's happening with Scape? He's dropped a ton of time there.
Massive amount.
Scape's still leading.
The first sector of that lap mark, he dropped nearly 3/4 of a second, so I don't know whether...
Lowndes really hustling the back here of Richards as well.
I wonder what's going on here. He may have been held... Well, there's Tyler Mecklem there. He may well have been held up by one of the slower cars, which allowed Ambrose to really close the gap.
Maybe there was traffic, as you say. Maybe there's something going on board. Might tell us. Let's have a listen. Lots of rear view mirror looking. So Mark's aware of the lurking Ambrose. Sounds all right.
Yeah, I'd say it was Tyler Mecklem. There was a lap car, the Altitude Commodore there, and I'm sure Scape must have got stuck up behind it. That allowed Ambrose to really close the gap because he's really got his head down and starting to get in some quick laps again. Well, watch this gap with interest.
Cloud of blue smoke there. Somebody's arrived down there just prior to Mark arriving, and there's been an almighty brake lock-up and a lot of tyre smoke.
Just by the look of it, though, now they got past Mecklem's car. I don't think Marcus quite has the race speed to be able to match Scape here. 41.6 in the first sector, or 41.9 for Scape. And he's picked another 3/10 on him in the second sector. So Scape here, he can build this buffer up again. He's just hanging on, but he just doesn't quite have the speed.
Yeah, it just looks like he's losing a fraction, doesn't it?
Well, the Kmart Commodore certainly has seen better days. The team about to push it back behind the pit area here. Greg Murphy is with us. Murph, tell us what's happened.
It's power steering. Got no power steer left, so I don't know what happened. Something broke. So they're not the easiest thing in the world to drive without it.
You've had a tough weekend, haven't you? A rough run in the second race, and you got caught in that concertina in this one.
Yeah, it's just been one of those ones we're gonna have to forget because. Nothing we can do goes right, so I don't know what's gone wrong. Must have run over that black cat somewhere, Rusty, but she's not going good, that's for sure. I think that's the championship over.
Hard luck, Murph. Best of luck in Barbagallo.
That was a very near miss for Ambrose down there at Holden Corner that time. We saw a glimpse in the box in the bottom right-hand corner. He had the brakes locked up, but he went perilously close to that wall. Meanwhile, Lowndes is still attacking the back of Richards.
So Mark Scape still our race leader. Marcus Ambrose in second. Garth Cantor, Steve Johnson, Jason Wright in fifth.
I think that must have been, because you said Mecklem, because now Mark's pulling out on Ambrose just fractionally everywhere.
Still just under a second the gap. Doing our sums on the championship points too. If they finish where they are, if Brighton finishes fifth and Scape wins this one, that'll put Scape in the Shell Championship Series lead. 1,360 points to 1,338 for his teammates, so it still leaves Holden Racing Team well and truly in command of the Shell Championship Series points chase.
Yeah, look now, Bright's up in fifth. I tell you what, Stephen Johnson is it's not going so bad. It's up in fourth now.
1.1 seconds now, so Scape's pumped it out by about 4/10. The gap between himself and Ambrose. Here's Tyler Mecklem. I think that was what allowed Marcus to climb back into the lead that Scape had over him there. Scape's now just starting to pump it out a little bit more. 1.1 seconds the gap, so Craig Lowndes, try as he may, he's only managed to go up to 12th.
Richards. Took a long time. Look at the damage on car 6. The massive amount of damage in the bonnet and the front end, all caved in at the back.
I think you could just about say that virtually every car on the field, couldn't you? Incredible.
He comes up behind Larry Perkins. And
these two tangled at Darwin.
Don't forget, Larry was probably the first guy into the pits to make his compulsory stops. It's paid off. It's got him up inside the top 10. Now he's got Craig Lowndes bearing down behind him.
Someone going slowly up to the top of the hill here. I noticed off to the right. Lowndes has a look up the inside. Yes, no, yes, no, yes.
No,
yes,
yes, yes, yes.
So he takes another one. 2 cars in the space of 1 lap.
Larry was pretty courteous there. He left space. It wasn't really decided until Larry decided to give him the space.
Lowndes has got plenty of speed. But he's going to run out of time. Here he is. Let's have a look at this replay of the overtaking manoeuvre.
Oh, there's not a lot of room there, is there?
Wow. Debris flag, gee, that's a squeeze at the inside when you do that at turn 1. No room there, but he gets the job done.
Yeah, brilliant.
And Stephen wisely gave him room. Brad Jones circulating again. Lowndes coming up into the back of him. Remember that Jones came in earlier with what looked like a front right puncture or some other damage to the front right corner. Ambrose in.
Oh, I was going to say, he's lost a lot of time on that first sector, so I don't know what was going on there.
Now, what's this going to do? This is an unscheduled stop, but what this is going to do is move Stephen Johnson up into 3rd place.
Now, I reckon
enough points to win the round.
The 2 front tyres have gone on. Now, remember, I made comment before about him locking a brake going down into Holden Corner. If he put a big flat spot on there, or even if he touched the fence, then that could be the source. We'll see if we can chase that answer down for you.
Well, problems here for Craig Lowndes. It's all come to nothing for the Gibson Motorsport Ford. He was putting in some...
It wasn't, still racing.
Oh, the car's stranded there.
Just wonder what's going on. It's obviously...
I'm just keeping quiet so you may be able to hear a radio message.
It's cranking over. I went to the brake area into turn 1 and all just stopped.
You can imagine the frustration for Craig Lowndes is probably going to bring out a safety car.
Very awkward spot right at the apex of turn 2, and the thing has just stopped. How weird. Alan Heafy, team manager there next to the monitor.
Will turn over, but it will not start. Okay, something's obviously broken. Not sure, but it's either an electrical problem or something, but we're not sure.
Not going to give up without a fight. There's team manager Fred Gibson, Alan Heafy, all the boys watching on with enormous disappointment in their faces.
This where he gets...
Both sides of these pit garages, both Gibson Motorsport and, of course, the Pertec Racing team, and they're only split by a couple of spaces. Marcus's car, they're not sure what went wrong. They took the tyres off. There is a chunk taken out of one of the tyres, but it wasn't deep enough to deflate it. So the Stone brothers are sort of in a bit of shock there, what was possibly going wrong with that car. And now we've got Craig Lowndes in, and as you saw, Alan Heafy and the boys unsure what is broken.
It could be a tiny little thing like a little wire somewhere, and that's the end of the day, isn't it? It's not obviously not fuel.
No fuel pressure. Absolutely zip.
No fuel pressure.
Okay, thank you.
What they've done is they've got him to cycle the pages on the Motec dashboard, and there's a fuel pressure reading. And when it's cranking over, it mustn't be showing any pressure.
So that could be the feed to the pump or something.
So the car is kaput. And what a rotten end to a fantastic start to the weekend. We've seen it
I don't understand that, the thing with Ambrose. So did Marcus decide to come in and they didn't know, or did they bring him in because he was complaining of something? That's a mystery to me. I don't understand that one. Wow.
Well, here's Anthony Tratt stuck between Mark Scaife and Garth Tander at the restart. That's going to be interesting. But that's the way they are on the track at the moment. Scaife, Tander, Steve Johnson in the box seat, though. If he stays where he is, he's going to win the round overall. Jason Bright, 4th. John Bowe, 5th. Stephen Ellery, 6th. Larkham in 7th. And Radicic in 8th.
Then Stephen Richards, Larry Perkins, Ingle, Ambrose, Morris, McConville, Kelly and Forbes. More of race 3 after this break.
Safety car on the circuit. We have slow traffic. In front of fast traffic, we have Garth Tander a little closer to Mark Scaife at the moment. If Garth stays where he is, he'll be second overall this round behind Stephen Johnson and Scaife third. But Garth, if he can elevate himself to the head of the pack, he may well take the overall prize. A lot of possibilities yet with about 13 laps to go. And the three guys who are in contention for the overall win are up the front of this field. And there is a sorry sight indeed. Craig Lowndes being towed back. A problem they are yet to resolve.
The suspect is fuel pressure for that car, and the get out of jail card again has been played by Jason Bright, who is fourth and still scoring valuable points this weekend.
When Marcus Ambrose came in for that pit stop before, it was an unscheduled stop. We know that, but it was his call to come in. Now, when he came in, I at first thought this was the reason why. Look at that sizable chunk that's been taken out of the right front tyre on his car. That is, in fact, not the problem. This tyre still has full pressure in it. What the team now believe the cause of that handling dilemma for him was a rear tyre, which is slowly deflating.
Just a word on Paul Wheel. Now, Paul was unfortunately going into turn 3 when he had a rock jam between his wheel rim and the brakes, which severed a brake line and launched him over the curb. He's pulled the car to rest. He's okay, but out of the race. Now, we're also hearing a few grumbles about the pit lane speed limiter. Great for safety, but you've got to be so careful. It's caught Garth Tander out once. It's because it monitors the engine revs and not the amount of fuel being dumped into the engine. If you slam your foot on the gas and use the button to slow you down, you can load up the fuel, the engine full of fuel, I should say. It can take a few seconds to clear itself, and that's all it takes to rub you out of the race, or it can indeed stall the car like it did for Garth Tander.
But that should be generally widely known that when you use the electronic limiter, you use a low throttle percentage. And that's what they do in IndyCar and also in Formula One. There's Lowndes with that perennial smile.
Yeah, what do you have to do to wipe the smile off his face? He's a great ambassador for the sport, and they're really great, really brilliant. Now it's going to be interesting to see now. We've got Tander right behind Anthony Tratt, so I wonder if he knows anybody's behind him.
And look where Jason Bright is. Boy, this is getting tight in the championship points. Let's watch as they go back to green. Anthony Tratt's right in the middle of this battle. What's he going to do? Garth Tander's trying to find a way. He's gone left, he's gone right. What's this Toll Express Ford going to do? We saw it almost come disastrously close to taking Marcus Ambrose out of the race.
Well, that was good information we got before from both Greg and Grant on some of the things that have been going on, and the reason that Ambrose was sidelined, because that was a real mystery to me before we went to the break. Obviously the car just wasn't balanced and behaving right, and Ambrose made a good call to come in and try and solve his problem.
So the points for this round and the grab for glory is very, very close at the moment between those four top cars: Scaife, Tander, Johnson, Bright. So Tratt, and just to give a bit of room there, Johnson now tries to run after Tander found his way through. Here comes Jason Bright looking for a way past the Toll Express Ford. He gets through safely. Bow wants to go as well.
There from Tander.
Ellery's the next one in the queue. And Mark Larkham, amazing fight back in this last race after a terrible shut earlier in the weekend.
Fairly decent lock up from Tander that time, and that's also likely to put a little mark on that tyre.
And the field work their way down Fleet Place, down toward turn 13, hard under brakes. Garth Tander trying to open up a bit of a gap over the rest of his pursuers. John Bow, one of the veterans of V8 Supercar racing. 10 laps remaining for race leader Mark Scaife.
Give you a rough idea that Scaife is got nobody in front of him. He was 0.9 quicker than anybody on that first sector time. That's nearly a second.
Yeah, he's well and truly off, but the argument for the minor placings is far from resolved. It's a good scrap between Tander, Johnson, Bright, Bow. Ellery's there in there as well.
Well, if they stay the way they are at the moment, it'll be Johnson the overall round winner, Garth Tander second overall, and Mark Scaife third overall. We've still got a few laps remaining in this one, 10 laps in fact. So all that could change. You can see how delicately balanced this point situation is as we come down to the closing stages of this GMC 400. What a street fight. Scaife now reeling, opening up, taking advantage of that clear track. 2.6 seconds the gap over Garth Tander, who's got a big freight train of cars locked up behind him.
Jones.
Kelly.
Those Kmart cars have been in the wars this weekend, haven't they?
Sure have.
Sorts of dramas. TWR Australia cars. But looks like Todd Kelly managing to get back into the action. Here's the battle for second. It's a beauty. Garth Tander, Stephen Johnson, Jason Bright. Amazing the way that guy continues to claw his way through from adversity earlier in the weekend to get a strong result.
He's struggled ever since he's had that new car, Jason Bright. He just doesn't seem to...
I said before, he plays the get out of jail card.
He must have a few.
Oh, it's unbelievable. He could. He's just sneaking away with this championship, totally unfussed. And earlier in the weekend, you would have reasonably said, well, this is going to be a shocker.
Exactly,
There he is. He's in fourth. A big bundle of points comes with it.
I think he said that after Hidden Valley in an interview after the race. He said, yeah, mate, I know how to win these things. I've seen it done before. Just keep it consistent. Just keep dragging in those points. Doesn't matter where you finish, just keep getting points.
3.8 seconds now, Mark Schofield.
Well, the huge number of races make up the 13 rounds, so very obviously you've got to be in amongst it all the time in order to score valuable points. And
big difference in race speed here. Mark Scaife, a 1:45.99. Tander's done a 1:47.16. So I'm just wondering if Johnson can get past, he can go any quicker. Certainly a bit of a traffic jam.
Yeah, it would seem as though Garth is the cork in the bottle because they're all starting to bunch up pretty tight behind him now. But he's got track position. They are fighting for position. He doesn't have to yield. And really at this point, despite Johnson looking a bit menacing, he doesn't look like he's really sort of had the speed anywhere to get the job done.
This is looking out the back of Russell Ingles, Castrol Commodore. This is the battle for ninth. Ambrose in 10th. Stephen Richards a little bit further behind in 11th. So Ambrose had all sorts of troubles today. Shown enormous speed throughout the weekend. Boy, great potential for things to come for this man and Stone Brothers Racing.
Oh, look at this.
Trying to find a way past Ingle.
That's right.
The enforcer, pretty wily character. He's been around a fair bit. It's not going to make it easy for Ambrose. At the order at the moment, Scaife, Tander, Stephen Johnson, Jason Bright, John Bowen 5th. Ellery's done well, but he's 6th. Paul Radicic in 7th. Larkham in 8th. Ingle in 9th. Oh, just squeezing through there. Stephen Richards around Tyler Mecklam's car. Larry Perkins, Paul Morrison 13th. McConville in the Lansvale car clawed his way back into the top 15.
7 laps to run. Scaife with a 5-second margin over Tander, Johnson, Bright, Bow, Ellery, Radicic and Larkham.
Ingle, Ambrose, Richards, Morris, Larry Perkins, McConville, Rodney Forbes rounding out the top 15. Back in a moment.
Welcome back to the run home. Race 3, double points, GMC 400 and the championship in the balance. In fact, the result of this race is so vital. And the major players here, Scaife, a little bit of a gap on the rest of the field. But from there on, very important points in terms of the championship. Jason Bright, we've mentioned, this is clearly his worst round of the year so far, no matter what he does here. But he has still salvaged at least 214 points. And that will keep him very much in the race. When you consider that yesterday's results, or yesterday and today, his results were 11th and 14th after qualifying 17th. It has been a salvage operation of immense proportions.
It doesn't look, you know, as if Stephen Johnson is all over the back of Tander, does it?
Not really. As I was saying before, he's, if he has got more pace, he's not really showing that he's got the capacity to go by without catastrophe.
Maybe DJ's on the phone saying, well, you're going to win if you stay where you are, so just don't be...
Which is not an altogether silly proposition.
No, absolutely not.
You know, I wouldn't be rushing into anything that you couldn't pull off cleanly. I think that's probably the underlining point, that if you are going to make a manoeuvre, then you need to make a good one. Looks like Ambrose lost a little bit of ground on Russell. Once again, the Houdini wriggle has been done by the HRT guys. And with Scaife going to walk away with 282 points in the current standings out of this weekend. His teammate with 214. They came into the round at the top of the table. There is Scaife, race leader, margin 5.7 seconds. And yeah, the second race we saw that thing of Scaife's all knocked around and they patched it up and got it back out there. You wouldn't think that he could do that.
Look how tight it is for this battle for second behind. Tander's got the shell forward right up his bumper. Here comes right, I should say, just ducking into the right-hand side of the shell forward to try and intimidate him with his headlights on.
Shadows are getting pretty long here as well. Everybody's got the lights on. Track light is starting to diminish. Very cloudy and pretty dark overhead.
It is when you consider it so early, isn't it?
Yeah, and Bill made mention of the fact before that not impossible that we wouldn't get a sprinkle of rain, the conditions that we've got outside.
Well, Tander wouldn't mind Jason Bright getting in front of Stephen Johnson, because that'll give him the overall round victory, in fact. I'm sure he would be thinking about that at the moment.
Guarantee he's not thinking about that at the moment.
He's got plenty on his plate. What a great fight back by the Valvoline Cummins team. Not so good for Jason Bargwanna, his teammate, but Tander really has been able to put some big points in the bank here if he brings it home. Pretty bad start to the season. He's currently 13th in the Shell Championship Series scoreboard with 534 points coming into this round. So they can bag another almost 300.
Last time through for Skate 46.4 versus Tander 47.1, so he continues to extend his lead. It's out now to 6.4 seconds, due in part to probably a couple of reasons. One, Skate's got the clear track and able to concentrate, might have a slightly quicker car at the moment, and Tander would be just ever so slightly defending and being a little cautious with Stephen Johnson right on his tail.
On board with the reigning Shell Series champion. Tries to pump it out. 6.4 seconds the gap over this battle now. Look and see the red Commodore just disappearing up the road as he swings into State Circle.
Left mirror awry on Ellery's car as he comes up to the top of the hill there. He's obviously just gone up a bit close to one of the walls.
Not a bad, good weekend for John Bowe, really, up in 5th place.
Great shot there from the chopper as the final moments of the GMC 400 unfold.
Just get the feeling something may happen here between these guys. They'll
probably be a bit nervous about doing anything too drastic toward the end of this one, although victory in the overall round is on offer here.
Bowe's well positioned if anybody does make any silly mistake. Pretty good recovery from Bowe, as you said, Barry, because he was frustrated after qualifying. Found it hard to find the sweet spot for this car. Ambrose's coming back through this pack. Is there a problem?
Yeah,
Ambrose's got a problem.
Yeah, problem because Ingle's just gone by. Oh, wow, can you believe it?
It's got worse and worse. He was running in 10th.
That looks like...
He was running in 10th spot. Go to the onboard camera. Let's have a listen.
Race score just scrolling through there, giving you an idea of the margins and the order. Well, unless this is a huge problem, there's probably some merit in trying to just have him stumble. But no, he's got to come in. He's coming in.
Funny with that back wheel. I'm not sure if my eyes are playing tricks with me. Look at the
it just looks as if the thing was wobbling around a bit, doesn't it?
Look at the left rear wheel that seems to be hanging out from the bodywork.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So problems.
Good call.
Rear axle here. Look at the way it's wobbling around there. Probably going to have to shut this thing down. By the time to have a look at this. Doesn't look too healthy in the rear end, that Ford.
Is it just the wheel that's
maybe it was just coming loose?
Yeah.
Could have been the wheel just coming loose. Well, lucky he limped back to pit lane.
Was.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes for the retaining clips in those hubs. If the nut had come off, maybe the wheel wasn't located properly on the lugs on the hub in that last stop. But the retaining clip would have prevented that wheel from coming off if that in fact was the problem.
One guy in pit lane who's got his fingers crossed at the moment is Gary Rogers. A bit of a better weekend for you as far as Scout's concerned.
Greg, it's been good so far. I mean, unfortunate for Jason's performance, but that's the way it goes. The car speed this weekend has been good, and the boys really have worked hard to get us to this stage. There's, I think, 4 laps to go, so we just got to keep at it.
What approach are you telling him to take?
Oh, look, really, I don't tell them to do anything. They've got to drive the car, and, I mean, if there's an accident, you need to talk to them, but otherwise, I think if you've got to tell your driver how to drive, get another driver.
Thanks, Gary. Nice for you and the team.
It's a good way of putting it, isn't it?
Pretty accurate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they're professional drivers. They should know what they're doing by now.
If Bright could get past Steve Johnson, Tanner would win the day overall, wouldn't it?
That's right.
Yes.
Just said that if Garth didn't have enough on his plate, that'd be a scenario that'd be pretty good for him. Stephen Johnson's looking pretty solid there, third place.
I think they're all immovable objects at the moment. It's
like a grind to the finish, isn't it? We don't want to take any risks. We've got a lot of food on our plate here. We want to go away with it.
The gap fluctuates, but
look. It's come off again.
Huge problem for Ambrose. The wheels parted company.
Back wheel forward. I'm caught off the side of the road.
3 wheels on my wagon.
It's a pretty dangerous thing. So anybody coming down the hill will be warned by the marshals that it's well behaved at the moment, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
You're warned by the marshals that there's debris on the circuit. Now you're going to have to watch this thing because it'll go straight through in this right-hander. Be careful, John Bauer. Be careful, Stephen Ellery.
No, he's going to miss Ellery.
Look at that.
Look at that. How about
Beautiful timing.
Oh, that's going to go straight there. Oh, over the tyres. You couldn't do it if you tried, could you?
Look at that. There with its cousins.
Yeah, that's what they call a control tyre.
It's found its ancestors at last.
So, how did you end up here?
What an amazing,
That's incredible.
amazing situation. So fortunately, the errant wheel doesn't get involved in anyone else and puts itself on the tyre stack. 3 laps remaining for race leader Mark Scape. 8.3 seconds the gap.
Do you reckon
well and truly has this one shot to bits.
Do you reckon you could choreograph that with 1 million tries?
Amazing.
Not even with 1 billion tries. Yeah, it looks very much like these guys have settled down into these orders. They're all aware of the massive amount of points they've earned to get to this point. Who's going to throw that one away with a lock brake or a scrape with a concrete wall?
That's why they call them control tyres, isn't it? Because they've got ultimate controls.
So the order remaining very static. Escape a 147.4, Canberra 148.31. So you can just see that everyone's just grinding down. Let's just get these things home, bag those points. No heroics this late in the race.
Shell Helix replay tells a story here. Mecklem comes down and gives the tyre wall a nudge. Actually, what he's done is helped to position the tyres in order to catch the Marcus Ambrose wheel.
Oh, look at this.
Now what's this coming on to Flint
Oh,
Drive?
there's your wheel nuts.
Yes.
I wonder what's going on there.
He's had some big problems with that left rear hub. And then the wheel just completely comes away.
That's a huge run down that hill for that thing.
This great shot here, this long shot. As Tander leads the charge through the concrete jungle. Charge down the back straight once again. Hard under brakes for turn 13. And very much so, everyone's sitting into a pattern.
It does look as if Stephen Johnson's going to really have a go now.
Well, I'd be very surprised, man.
Yeah, same here. I totally agree.
Well, he's got a lot to lose and not an awful lot to gain.
He's sitting in the box seat. If he stays where he is, he wins the round overall.
2 laps.
2 laps remaining. He's going to take 294 points to add to his...
It won't stop him applying the pressure and trying to drive to the rhythm of his own car, but the only thing he's going to gain by the move is bragging rights, because he's going to win the round if he stays in this position.
The bragging rights thing, nice to have, though.
Oh, absolutely.
So 294 points for Steve Johnson if he finishes third. 288 for Tander. 282 for Scape. It's a close run thing. Tremendously close at the end of 400 kilometres of racing.
Unless he knows that he's got such an advantage in a particular area that it's really worth having a lunge.
But it does look like the pace is hotted up.
8.8 seconds the lead Scape now has over Tander. So he hasn't backed off at all. He's got a big, healthy cushion there. Bring it home for the flag. Get himself on the podium.
It's still a fair old margin in car length terms. Sometimes the camera lens foreshortens the gap. I don't think that Stephen Johnson's going to be able to do much about that gap. Stephen Ellery's just drifted a little from the pack, but he's in a very good 6th. That's valuable points for him.
Sure is. He's 14th in the Shell Championship points. So he'll pick up another 187 for his trouble this weekend. So lots of points on offer here at double points races.
And for those that have had car damage or who are sidelined, as we look at Dean Orr and Dick Johnson, then it's very painful on the sidelines when you see these double points events get out through your grasp and through your fingertips.
1 lap remaining. I can't say I'm a big fan of the double points situation. The way NASCAR conduct their racing, it doesn't matter if it's a 600-mile race or a 400-mile race, whatever, the points are the same right across the board. You don't tend to get big breaks in points happening in the championship battle.
The problem is, Mike, it just destroys. You look at Ambrose as an example now, it's knackered him, isn't it, really?
I do hope that common sense prevails and we do go back to a standard point system per race, because you're going to have a much closer championship battle as a result.
But the Holden fans are happy with this as Mark Scaife passes the Holden signage, turns 8 and 9, half a lap to run as he heads towards Parliament House. He has murdered them with a 9.3 second margin in this third race. Cleared himself of all the nonsense back here for the minor placing battle.
And done a great job.
And really done a great job. Team put him in a great position.
Well, this is the thing we were talking about, Holden Racing Team, the key to their success, 4 of the last 5 championships. It's not so much that they don't make mistakes, it's just that they make a lot less than everyone else.
They
always there to pick up the pieces, aren't they?
Micromanage the small elements of the game very well.
Just somebody there.
So big applause from the flag marshals and officials as Scaife brings it down Flynn Drive for the final time. Big cheer from the Holden fans. We've seen some strength, some muscle flexed here by the 4 teams.
DJ's got his fingers crossed. I love it.
Sure does.
1 corner remaining. The checkered flag is out for Mark Scaife. He's going to take the 3rd and final race of the GMC 400 for 2001. And Scaife does the business with a huge margin over the minor place getters. Takes this late afternoon.
Takes victory in the final race. Garth Tander second, but Stephen Johnson is going to win the round overall. Great performance by Junior, 294 points, claims the round. Garth Tander will finish second overall. And Mark Scaife will finish third, with a jubilant Dick Johnson, his wife Jill. They've raised Stephen Johnson, and they're very, very proud moment for the whole Johnson family. Just 26 years of age, Junior.
Thanks, guys. Top job all weekend. I can't thank you guys enough.
And don't think he isn't excited about it. Great fight back too from Mark Scaife. Saw the damage that the car incurred in race 2, lost a lot of position. Holden Racing Team once again, when the chips are down, prove what a championship team they are. Pushing their man right to the top of the queue. Look at the Holden fans here, and there's plenty of them. The Red Army through Holden Corner. Jason Bryant, amazing job to fight his way back up to 4th after really struggling for pace all weekend. Here's the way they finish on the Shell Helix race score. Mark Scaife will win the final race. Garth Tander and Steve Johnson. Johnson, the overall round winner. Bright, Bow, Ellery, Radicic and Larkham rounding out the top 8.
Then Ingle, Richards, Morris, Perkins, McConville, Forbes, Reed and Kelly will wrap it up and come back and talk with the winners after this.
Stephen Johnson, in the lead up to this event, you promised your folks you were going to win it. Has it sunk in yet? You've done it.
No, it hasn't as yet, Rusty. I mean, that's a tough race, and you know, to come away with a win and really get my championship back on track since Darwin, mate, I can't ask for a better weekend, really.
How does it feel right now? This is your first ever round win in the Shell Championship Series. We've got the gear coming from all the crew. Fantastic effort.
Oh, thanks, mate. It's it's really a fantastic effort by the whole Shell Helix Dick Johnson Racing crew, and you know, my hat goes to them because we had a really fast car there towards the end, but just couldn't get past Garth. But you know, I'm so wrapped. I can't wait. I can't wait for the next round.
We said it yesterday. Pretty proud moment for your dad in particular. Now you've done it. Here he is. Here's DJ as well. Congratulations, mate. Well done. That's a great effort from Steve and for you.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think after this weekend, he deserved it.
Well done, guys.
Thanks.
Well, Garth Tander, is the monkey now off your back?
Oh, I don't know. Since we had such a great race here last year, it's good to be back on the podium. It's a long time since I've been up near the front of the field. It's a pretty good feeling.
How does it feel now for the championship? Is it too late for that, or are you still in this thing?
Oh, you never say never. And, you know, we've got a good bag of points here, so we just need to make sure we're consistent. And for the rest of the year, make sure we score big points in the big points races. You never know where you could end up.
It was such a turning point for your championship last year. It all but destroyed it. What's the difference this year?
I don't know. We just obviously learned a few lessons about how to attack this race from last year. The car was exceptional. Like, the car was a lot better than the car we had here last year. We looked after his tyres really well. The guys did a great job in the pits. Like, everything went smoothly. It was a great weekend.
Congratulations, mate. Well done on your second place.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Well, in the final race of the day, the Holden Racing team, and in particular Mark Scaife, just creamed them more than 9 seconds at the end over the field. Well done.
Look, that was just a fantastic result, Rusty. I mean, the dramas from race 2 and the guys to get the car fixed and then finish that race and then get us out in the grid and have the car as good as that. I mean, the car in the last race was just fantastic. I mean, it's as good as it gets.
In terms of reading this particular race, the team must have had the strategy just right.
Well, I mean, we won this race last year, also won too. So, I mean, the car for this style of race, in terms of looking after its tyres, and I mean, the guys just out-strategised the other blokes. And but for speed, the car was good enough too, Rusty. I mean, Ambrose and the other guys were right with me at some stages, and the car was fast enough to win it.
Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
Let's recap the round results now. A first position after taking pole, incidentally. 12th and then 3rd for his 294 points, Steve Johnson. Garth Tander, 4th, 7th and 2nd. Now that's consistency. Different for Mark Scaife, 3rd, 24th. But then when it counted, he finished on top for his 282 points. Good results too, you'll notice there, for Paul Radisich and John Bow. They were lurking around the top 3 all weekend. And Jason Bright, as we've already mentioned, salvaged a lot of points out of the weekend to preserve his championship position. We'll have a look at that in just a moment. But Brendan Smith from the ACT government, the acting Chief Minister and Minister for Tourism, presenting Steve Johnson with his trophy there and his GMC power tool. But a great moment for Steve. And I think to an extent the monkey's off his back as well. They're referring to Garth Tander in that regard, but certainly for Steve.
Oh, really? You know, last year it sort of turned around for him. And look at the points situation there. I mean,
fantastic.
Top 4 are pretty close.
Well, Russell Ingall had a pretty crook weekend when you think about it. 8th, 11th and 9th for 190 points, but it still keeps him up 4th place in the championship. He's in the 1,000-point zone, and Marcus Ambrose must be thinking now about what might have been, Barry. It's been a very important weekend. One thing it has done is provide us with a close championship, but it also might have given a platform to Steve Johnson and Garth Tander. We know they've got good teams, and there are still a lot of points left in the Shell Championship Series.
Well, it's a bit of an irony, because last year it was where it sort of turned around for Steve Johnson, and last year here it was where it all went wrong for Garth Tander. So, you know, your heart has to go out to the Stone brothers. You know, that's really bad luck. I don't know what was wrong with that left rear wheel, but it's the luck of the draw, I suppose. You know, it's a hard circuit round here, and street circuits are always difficult, but it's produced some good racing. You know, there's a big debate now about the reverse grid, and there's going to be will be forever, I guess.
Well, having said that, HRT, of course, is still the team to beat for the championship. Craig Lowndes will be a nuisance, if nothing else, for the rest of the season, because we know he's good. He just hasn't had a lot of luck lately. Now, the GMC 400 will be reviewed along with all the sport of the day in Sports Tonight with Matthew White right after 10 news. And then we, of course, go to the US Open Golf. This is a major event for Network 10. Southern Hills Country Club in Oklahoma. Tim Webster will present the major programming. Matthew White will be over there for Sports Tonight, and I'll be hosting that show for the next couple of weeks, and we'll bring you all the up-to-date news from that big event. Now, Shell Championship Series Round 6 takes us all the way to Perth from Canberra, and a sprint format. Races on Saturday and Sunday. Check your guides for details. In the meantime, we really hope that you've enjoyed this round of the Shell Championship Series. Another great year for the GMC 400. On behalf of the entire crew, it's goodbye from Canberra.